wanted to get back to the talking more about like into the meat of the actual training part of it that you were doing. So when you're getting there and like all of your circumstances are non-ideal, right?
Terrible.
Like everything
Worst
there,
thing possible.
like you lose your stuff, you're staying in a crappy place, not comfortable, it's not your house, you're in a completely different world entirely, right?
Yeah.
Wearing equipment that doesn't fit. So mentally for you, were there anything, how do I ask this? Were there any specific things that you kind of fell back on, or maybe like any anchors you had to get yourself like checked back in when it was time to go on the ice? Like what did you use to make sure that those things didn't affect you? Or was it just a no factor because once you hit the ice, you knew you were ready to go?
Yeah. So I had some anxiety and I still do. Like, here's the thing. I think it's healthy. Like, I think it's healthy not to be arrogant. Do you know what I mean? It's like even when, couple years ago, another agent called me, and they were recommended by Chris Draper and another NHL guy. They said Ryan Kessler and Dylan Larkin and Ian Cole, a bunch of NHL guys in the States. They were looking around. I got a call. They said, "Can you come out and do this thing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course. I work with anybody anywhere." But I'm like, oh, for sure. Like, it's another opportunity, another feather in the cap with some really good players. But when I went to do it, I was like, yes, but the humbleness in me says, okay, like, prepare, be not nervous, but be anxious, like make sure you do a good job. So there's always that, okay, this is another big stage, do a good job. And I think that's healthy. I think if you're a hockey player, you should do that. I think if you're running a business, you should have a healthy, anxious, what's the word? Anxious, nervous, be sure, but what's the word for that?
I think it's you're just talking about going into the situation with humility, right? So you know that you can do this. You have
respecting people's positions and understanding that they're stars in the NHL.
Yeah, respecting the opportunity, respecting the circumstances, respecting who's involved, and knowing you're going in and you're equipped to do the job.
Yes,
but you have to make sure that you're on.
That's
right?
Okay. So that's exactly it. So yeah, the question is, in Russia, did I feel that way? I felt 100% sure of my ability, but I was a little bit nervous because of the circumstances.
Right.
But I had someone from CBC was wanted to find out how that trip went, and they were intrigued how it happened and all that stuff. So they were asking me the same sort of question. They said, "Were you nervous? Were you intimidated? Were you this?" I said this. First of all, as a hockey player, if you play the game intimidated or in awe of other people, you're not going to be good.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So I happened to play with some of the best players. You know, Brendan Shanahan. You know, we played on under 17 together. We were friends. And so many, like, that's one, but several players like that I never said they're better than me, and I never said that I felt I was better than a lot of them, and, you know, stuff happens. So as far as hockey status goes, like, I just didn't play in the NHL, but I knew my abilities and where I come from, and the clout I have with people is there. So I'm like, okay, I'm on par there. So I'm never going to be intimidated that way. But what was really, really important was and this is important for players and coaches, is that I knew I was prepared. I knew that because over the years, I've seen everything from the first clinic I ever did, I thought I was going to hit a home run, and it turned out that a 6-year-old boy that could hardly skate showed up. That's where I started in my training business. Shortly after that, it was a lineup for people to go to my clinics. But then some days, you know what, you'd think you'd have 30 guys on the ice and you'd have 6. Some days you'd think you'd have 6, you'd have 30. And you'd have to, so I knew how to run the ice no matter what. The most interesting thing was, when I say I got prepared, I got prepared because I had to get prepared one day. And what I mean by that is, early on, I could get by as an instructor doing what I do early on. I'm talking the first year or two. Probably the first year. I could get away because I could, on the ice, I was so good. Like, I was better than anybody that was on the ice with me training, right? And faster, and you know, I was 30 years old, so it was like
prime time.
My high skill and all that stuff was good. But my communicating, the skill was not elite, not even close yet. But I didn't know the difference. I was ignorance is bliss until it's not bliss anymore. Mm-hmm. So one day so what happened when I started training guys is early on, the best players in the area, like Ryan Wilson was becoming a high pick, Eric Wellwood, all these guys were wanting to come and skate with me. So I'm like, okay, that's what matches up better for me. So this is early on, and Eric Wellwood and I was showing him something. And I was showing him.
You talk about Kyle.
Kyle Wellwood. Yeah. He was. I was doing something with him. I wanted to show him a specific move. So as I was showing him, I couldn't get the words out of my mouth. So I fluffed it that day, but the whole session, I'm going, you're not qualified. You're not qualified for this. As soon as it gets real, like as of right now, you're as good as any guy that's on the ice with you as far as doing your skills and stuff, and you can skate with them and you'll impress them that way. But right now, you're bullshit. You're not a real instructor. You cannot build a business the way you are right now. If you're going to go on like this, just...
That was the moment.
That was the moment. It punched me right in the face.
Mm-hmm.
So I not pretended, but I was able to communicate some things. I knew drills to make people better, but I couldn't get the words out of my mouth. So at that moment, I was so angry with myself. And I didn't have to be angry. I was just...
No, but you realized.
I realized that I'm inadequate to actually give advice on hockey, or not advice, but to teach the skill, because I can't explain it. All I can do is demo it and give you some drills to copy me. So at that moment, I went home and I said, I better figure this out right now. And I started on a daily basis, and I had reams and reams of paper just to get my thoughts out on how do you skate. So that if I said to someone like Eric, skate harder, that's not teaching. Yeah. So I would say, okay, Eric, when I write this down. Okay, I need a knee bend, and I put it in my words. I need a knee bend. I need my head up. I need the arm swing like this. The toe flick, the recovery, and I wrote everything down to every detail.
Yeah. So that it was like precise.
Yep. And I didn't use those notes exactly, but I had to get the words out, and I would just say it out loud to myself. Okay, if you're going to teach someone how to shoot a puck, how do you shoot a puck? Yeah. Because most people don't have the details on how to do it. So now, if I see someone not shooting incorrectly or that had a deficiency, and even without doing it, I couldn't recognize the coaching cues.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent so much time doing that, so that all of a sudden now
you can articulate it. Yeah.
Yes, and that's what made me a really good teacher.
Right.
So it was being prepared. So I always say this: if I can't be the best in the world at what I do, then I don't deserve $1.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably not necessarily true, but like for the quality of work I do. So anyways, when you say preparedness, when you say where you're nervous or whatever, I don't get nervous about the quality of work that they're going to get and the quality of information they get. And I know the feedback's going to be great, and I know it's going to be the best product that they've had.
Yeah.
To most likely.
Yeah.
So that part was an issue. I knew that I was prepared. I know that if I go and do what I do, it's going to be great.
Right.
And it's never failed me.
Yeah. So
it's never failed me since that day with Kyle Wellwood.
Right. And so the point, I mean, that for you at least, it took the punch in the face for you to be like, I need to get on this right now.
Yes.
Right. But it doesn't need to take that. No. And that's kind of the message to relay to whether we're talking to the parents, coaches, or players, or anyone in a similar situation. It doesn't need to take the punch in the face for you to start to get prepared. No. Right. So if you almost everyone that's listening to this, you're not prepared for what you're doing. Right? Whether you're a young player, you're not prepared. You can't be. You're too young. Whether you're a minor hockey coach or just starting to be a junior coach or whatever, you're coaching the high school team, you could be more prepared as a coach. You could have more information to relay. You could sharpen up your knowledge for sure. And if you're a parent, that's an even bigger one, because they're probably, in most cases, the least experienced in the game. So you're not prepared to be a hockey parent either.
Yeah.
So instead of waiting for the moment to happen where you realize, oh shit, I wasn't ready to deliver on that moment, prepare yourself now. So when the moment comes, whether it's with Kyle Wellwood or whether it's with Igor Larionov, or whether your kid finally asks you a question like, well, why though? Then you'll actually have the tool to deliver that, right? And there's things that you can do to deal with that, right? And it doesn't have to be just hockey. It could be, again, to anything, your job, like me with school.